I go, yeah, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I could. And he goes, okay. And we went on an 8-mile run. I couldn't run 8 miles today. Got back to the house, and he said, okay, whatever you want. If you can run 8 miles, you can play professional hockey. If I didn't run the 8 miles, I think he would have said, go home. So I said to my dad, I said, Dad, can I borrow $50? I got no money. He goes, here's $200. I know you're good for it now.
What was the deal for? Well, how much did you sign for?
I actually got a $350,000 signing bonus in 1978.
There you are in Indianapolis, and not long after, that whole league is basically full, or the different teams are folded into the NHL. Right. Which you end up in Edmonton kind of because of this deal that was made.
So Nelson Scalbani, the owner, said, Wayne, I'm going to trade you. So Winnipeg was there and Edmonton was there. And my manager again at the time, I said, Nelson said I can go wherever I want, Edmonton or Winnipeg, where should I go? He said, tell him Edmonton. I said, why Edmonton? He goes, they have a new arena. They have a better chance to get in the NHL than Winnipeg. I said, okay. I'm going to Edmonton. So that's how I ended up in Edmonton.
So they become a part of the NHL.
Yeah, so when I got into Edmonton the first day, the very first game I played for the Oilers, I wore number, I think, 24. We played against Winnipeg that night, and I said after the game to Glenn Sather, was a coach, I said, listen, I really want to have number 99. I don't like the number 24. And he said, yeah, but you're going to be a target. And I said, you know what, I'm going to be a target anyway. He said, okay. And I got 99 back. So I wore one game professionally without wearing number 99.
MVP, year one, and Lady Byng, award winner. That's really a side of the game that I think people who know you are most impressed by, the way you are off the ice, the way you carry yourself.
I respected the game, and I learned from my dad. My dad was my idol. You know, I respected the players I played with, and I respected the players I played against. The most unique thing about the Oiler teams, we didn't play to be in the Hall of Fame. We played sort of out of fear and respect for the game, that we wanted to play well, because we loved to play. We were like kids on the pond. We used to take our skates home. We used to live in this little apartment in Edmonton, and we'd take our skates and we'd jump on the outdoor ponds with kids, and they couldn't believe we were out there, tennis balls, and Kevin Lobe blocking shots.
This is you as a pro.
Oh, yeah. In 1981, 82, I got 92 goals that year. We used to go on the pond with these kids all the time. It was hilarious. They used to go, oh, my God. And we're like, yeah, bear down.
We're about to carve you up.
That's what it was all about. We had fun. And so the more fun you have, I have mothers who ask me all the time, how many hours a day did you practice? Tell my son. I'm like, I didn't practice. That's what I loved. If you love something in life, whether it's, you know, business or being a doctor or being an athlete, if you have a passion for it, my goodness, the hours are endless that you put in.
Not long after that, you guys have now ratcheted up how great you are as a team, and you get into the finals in 1983.
Here's Gretzky. Last word for Gretzky and Billy Smith. It's over. It's tough to take. You can see it written all over his face.
And got sloshed.
Got sloshed. Got 4 games to nothing.
Yeah.
By the Islanders. What did you learn from that loss?
We had a bad goalie.
Oh, yeah.
You always got to blame the goalie, right?
Always blame the goalie at the end of the day.
I'll tell you what happened. So in the island, you got to walk by the home team's locker room on the way out to get on the bus. And I remember walking with Kevin Lowe and Mark Messier thinking, oh, my God, I don't want to walk by this room, and it's going to be chaotic. You know, you win the
They're going to be celebrating.
And we walked by the room, and it was the most amazing thing we've ever seen. They were just sitting there because they were so physically and mentally beat up. And I remember thinking, as we all walked by, okay, now we understand what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. So as much as a hatred and a rivalry we had with the Islanders, if it wasn't for the New York Islanders and the great players and the great team they had, I don't know if we would have ever won the Stanley Cup, because we learned both on the ice and off the ice what it took to be a champion. That made our team. That made the Edmonton Oilers what it became. And after we lost in the final, in the first year of the Islanders, Glenn Sather, the day before Game 1, called me in his office, and the last thing you want to ever do is get called in Glenn Sather's office. I'm like, oh my God, now what? So I called in, and Lee was standing there. Lee Fogelin was our first captain. And Lee said, with Glenn, you should be the captain of this team. It's time for you to be the captain and not me. And Lee said, you know, it's time. You're the guy that's going to get us a Stanley Cup championship. And I remember thinking, of all the guys we respected the most in our locker room was Lee Fogelin. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be the captain. You're the captain. So when I became the captain, Kevin Lowe and Coffey and Messier, we used to hang pictures along the locker room of guys who lifted the Stanley Cup, Bobby Clark and Jean Beliveau and Guy Lafleur. And they used to say to me every day, Gretz, you got to lift the Stanley Cup one day. So they would ignite me each and every day. And our thing, too, was you're not a true superstar until you win a championship. Now, it's different today because of free agency and all that kind of stuff. But in our era, to become a true sort of superstar, you had to be a champion, and we all knew that. And we all took that on our shoulders. So we were in the locker room, and, you know, obviously it's jubilation. And in Edmonton, we were playing 6 o'clock games, so it would be on at 8 o'clock in the East. So it's only 8:30, quarter to 9, and we're all in there. So it's 10:30, it's 11 o'clock. So the locker room's clearing out, and we're all going across the street to the convention center for city's throwing a party, family, friends, business people, whatever. So as we're all leaving at the end, I said to Glenn Sather, I said, Glenn, what do we do with the Stanley Cup? Because, you know, when you win it, you're like, Christ, what do you do with the Stanley Cup?
Now what? Yeah.
Now what? And Glenn was standing there, and he turned to me, and he said, well, you guys won it, take it. So we, the Oilers, started the tradition of taking the Stanley Cup. So before that, the Islanders, the owner would take it. Montreal, the owner would take it. Toronto, the owner had it. We took the Stanley Cup, and we took it everywhere. So we took it to friends' houses. We took it to restaurants. And the ironic thing was, the Stanley Cup is a magnet. It's the most amazing trophy. The greatest thing about hockey is our trophy. It's a magnet. And everybody wants a picture with it. They want to drink out of it.
That thing's heavy, by the way.
It's very heavy. It's 38 pounds, I think. And I always say that's how the guy who now travels with the Stanley Cup got his job, because the Oilers had so much fun with the Stanley Cup, they finally had to say, we need a guy on the cup.
Yeah, there's somebody that literally travels with the Stanley Cup to make sure it's...
Well, in those days, we won, we'd have it in our city for 2 days. If you were home in your hometown and you won the cup for a day, you call the Hall of Fame, they bring it down to your house. I got pictures in my backyard with my grandmother and my mom and dad with the cup. Now they do a day with the cup, which is nice, you know.
Now this kind of... The horse is out of the barn here now. What changes in your game, if anything? What changes with your motivation? How do you stay on top?
Nothing changed with us. I was on a lunch in 1981, a year before we played the Islanders in the finals, and I was sitting beside Brian Trottier. And I was a kid then, and Brian was one of my favorite players and a great player. And I said to Brian, I said, how's it feel to win the Stanley Cup? And I'll never forget, he said to me, Wayne, it's the greatest feeling in the world. It's just like you own it. And he was like, I wish every player who plays in the NHL could have that feeling. And he said, but that's what makes it great, is they can't. And it's so true. When you win it one time, you want it the second time, you want it the third time, you want it the fourth time. It just becomes something you want to own forever.
Edmonton Oilers, the Stanley Cup champions of 1985.
Gretzky has got it up high. And ladies and gentlemen, the Edmonton Oilers have won the 1987 Stanley Cup. The 1988 Stanley Cup champions, the Edmonton Oilers, have won it again.
Tell me, as these championships are happening, you're winning the Stanley Cup, how does the end of this run happen in Edmonton for you?
Oh, unfortunately, because of business.